A big cough right before you go live.
Oh, we're live. Oh my God. Oh, hi everybody. Barry McGuire here, folks, for Barry McGuire's Creative Real Estate Education Series. It's all about folks who are interested in doing things other than long-term buy and hold as a primary strategy. We love long-term buy and hold, but we gather on Mondays for the Monday main event, and we talk about all things real estate. We have in experts on tax and insurance and mortgages, other areas to talk to you about things that are important to you as a real estate investor, and especially as a creative real estate investor. Donna and I teach focus workshops. It comes out of my 47 years as a real estate lawyer here in Alberta. We teach creative things around rent to own and agreements for sale and options and joint ventures that really apply all across Canada. And we were so happy to have our first live event in 3 long COVID years come off beautifully. That was in Calgary, May 7th and 8th of this year. 2-day event. So nice to be back in person. Wayne Hillier, who's helping me out today and who helps out every Monday, was a big part of that as a focus team leader.
Yeah.
And it was fun, Wayne, wasn't it?
Top notch. Top notch.
See how I timed that? That was good. Get that water in his mouth and then ask him a question.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I enjoyed it.
So just before we get into today's programming, we are going to do another live event this day, a 1-day event, and this is going to be on agreements for sale only. A whole day on AFS, as we call it. Yeah.
In Edmonton, no driving for me.
No driving for Wayne.
Focus team's coming up.
Focus team will come up, and we'll have more time to go over some of the important things, at least that I think are important. And how does an agreement for sale really work? When you're out there in the trenches talking to a seller and looking to put together an agreement for sale, how do you write up that financing schedule? It's only 1 page, and really that's what you have to learn how to write. But how do you write it up so that it's a win-win? So I believe in doing lots of practice finance schedules and examples. And so we'll have time at a 1-day event to do lots of that, which for me, that's the way I learn. I do repetitive examples until it finally sinks into my brain. And so that's one of the things that will, add to essentially a half-day event, turn it into a full-day event. That's coming up September the 24th here in Edmonton. Donna will put something in the chat about that.
So
all right.
Excited.
Let's
excited.
Go. Let's go. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about fix and flip. Wayne is doing a lot of fix and flips. I've helped a lot of people who do fix and flips. I would like to talk about some of the things that every person who's doing fix and flip should know, the pitfalls, just a few of the pitfalls, the things that you run into. And then we've got some other material on mortgages. True and false question on mortgages. Everybody loves true and false, right? It's exam time of year. Kids are writing their exams. We're going to give you a true and false exam, probably 10 questions, see how you do. So let's get started with a little bit of fix and flip. Wayne, so you've employed a lot of strategies in your real estate investing career. Currently, you're doing a lot of work on fix and flips. Got a lot of things going on. You've had a tour where you took people around and showed them various fix and flips, what stages they are. So I think you're a guy who knows a fair bit about fix and flip. How are you feeling about your fix and flip strategy and how far you and Gabby have come in terms of it now being smoother? And how are you feeling about it?
Feeling really good. We are this close to being 100% like automated, to the point where now the only thing that I really need to focus on is just going through the listings that it emailed to me by realtors and just communicating with wholesalers locally and just looking for deals. And when a deal comes, we jump on it. We send it off to the lawyer. We send it off to Barry. Barry, you do your thing, you get our, financing all in order, and it's pretty quick. We hand it off to our our contractors. Contractors have got like a, material list of everything that we use. Spent about 30 minutes doing a walkthrough with them. Otherwise, here you go. And they know exactly what to do. And then it's just a matter of time before it's ready for sale. So I don't like being involved. I don't like using my hands. What I want is I want it to be just a well-oiled machine that's, that I can just have the right team, employ them, and then they take care of everything. And I just kind of oversee it as almost like a CEO.
Well, that is absolutely stellar that you have taken the concept from, I wonder if I bought a property and fixed it up, I could sell it and make some money. I mean, that's really what a fix and flip is. You take it from, I've never done one before, to the point where we're talking automation here. Yeah. And I noticed that you said that your biggest involvement, sounds like your biggest involvement was at the beginning, when opportunities come your way, either through realtors or through your network or through wholesalers that I mean, people know you're doing fix and flip, so they bring them along to you and they say, Wayne, here's one that might fit your model. So now let's talk about that part of it, because in my brain, over my career, I've done some minor fix and flipping, but nowhere near what you've done. And so for what I've done and for what I've heard from other of my clients, one of the biggest issues is buying the property at a price where when you finish your renovations, you not only can sell it for a profit, but you've got some built-in margin to protect you against the vagaries of doing fix and flip, where unexpected things sometimes show up. So it sounds like you put a lot of effort into that analysis on the acquisition side of it. And tell us a little bit about that part of it. How do you analyze and come up with a number that you say, yeah, if I can buy it for that price, I can make this work?
After a little while, and it does take some time, you really need to have a team that you can rely on. And, the first couple deals are going to be all over the place. You're going to have a rough number. Your contractors are going to say, well, it depends. We have to start, we have to get in there before we can give you an actual number. And then I find that a lot of people get into fix and flips and they go $20,000 over budget, because they weren't planning for this. And they didn't see this coming. But, as you get more experience and as you do a lot more, and as you build, like I said, a material list of like literally everything that we buy and where we buy it from, and we start, working on negotiating with vendors and buying in bulk and stuff like that, your numbers actually really you're within plus or minus a few $1,000s, depending on, some random thing that might pop up behind a wall. So it's really easy and predictable now at this particular point, which makes it great. I don't have to put a whole heck of a lot of thought into it. We spend 30 minutes, walking through the house, and we're like, okay, it's the same as the last one. Okay, it's a couple of extra 100 square feet. Change the number slightly. And do you want to do anything about this right here? No? Yes? And then, we have a good understanding of how much it's going to cost. And then it's just a matter of just doing the mathematics of reverse engineering, not reverse engineering, but working your way backwards from, what the after repair value is going to be. And the after repair value, you get that information from, your qualified realtor. Your realtor is going to run the comparables to determine, what's based on the level of renovation that, that Wayne and Gabby do, or that you do, based on that quality, it'll be worth this much money approximately. And then you just work back based on your budget. And you also subtract what you want your profit to be, minimum. And then that kind of gives you an idea of how much you need to buy this house for. So, we set up searches on the MLS, and when houses come in below that threshold, we know that that's a property that's, we could potentially make an offer on. So we look at it very quickly. We double check the comparables. We put an offer on it. It's very simple. It's actually, it's gotten to a point where it's quite easy.
Sounds like you work backward from a price. Yeah. If you know what the after repaired value of the property will be, you can start there and then start subtracting from that.
Yeah.
See what the cost would be and whether you have your appropriate profit margin. So now, folks who are listening to this, this all makes perfect sense as Wayne describes it. But as you said, Wayne, when you're doing your first few, none of this is set up as a first-time investor. When you're doing your first fix and flip, you might have read a lot of stuff and you might be able to just sort of understand and say what you just said to me and understand it. But still, there's an element of, I've done a few of these in that, isn't there? There's an element of experience that allows you to make these pricing determinations that end up in you going, it takes me about 30 minutes to figure this out.
Yeah.
All right.
But when you get started, like I said, it is difficult when you get started. And I had when I walked into it, and this is what I tell everybody else that asked me about it as well. I always say, just prepare to either break even or lose $5,000 on your first 3 projects. Mm-hmm. If you walk into it with that mentality that I'm going to lose $5,000 on my first 3 projects, and you have enough money within your savings account or within your bankroll in order to take that $15,000 hit, but know that on the 4th one you're going to be profitable, then I think that's the best way to approach it, because I find that people get too stressed out. They need to make sure it works, and it starts making you start making emotional decisions as opposed to logical decisions.
Yeah.
And once you eliminate that emotion, you just treat it like a business and you plan to lose. I know it sounds terrible, but you plan to lose. It clears your head, and you do it right, and you learn. And I mean, like I said, if you lose $15,000 on your first 3, that's like a $15,000 training program, but you're like boots on the ground training program, and you get to do it yourself, and maybe you win. And
yeah, you don't necessarily going to lose 15,000, and it's not your planning to lose $5,000 or so per deal for the first 3 deals. It's that realistically, experience has shown us that even though you're going to work as hard as you can work, even though you're going to have a really good team, you're going to read, you're going to research, you're not going into this blind. You're going to do all of the homework that you can possibly do. That's theory until you actually buy a property and start spending money and renovate and get it ready and market it and sell it. Until you've done those. It's not like you're planning to lose. It's that's just how it will be until you understand the subtleties and the nuances, and really you're better able to slice and dice how all the pieces fit together. So yeah,
we did a flip a few years back. It's maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I wasn't planning to lose on that particular one, so that one really stung. We got really emotional about it, and there was some joint venture partners involved. And what ended up happening was the joint venture partners were actually the ones that were responsible for the renovations. So they were completing the repairs, and we weren't paying them for it. But by them doing that, they get 50% of the deal. And what ended up happening was everything was going great, really fast, especially like if you've ever done flips, like when you come in after a couple of days and like the whole place is torn apart, and you're like, wow, these guys are fast. These guys are great, which is cool. And then, the wall touch-ups and everything's going good, and the paint's on, the flooring's on. You're like, wow, this is moving. Kitchen cabinets are going in. But as soon as you get to that point, as soon as you get to the point where the walls are touched up, the paint is on, the flooring is in, the kitchen is in, now this is really where you really need to start watching, and you need to be there almost daily, because it's the finishing work where that's where your contractors are going to mess up. It's the finishing work. So it's like, it's the countertop, it's the baseboards, it's the handles, it's the doors not being aligned. It's all the little stuff. And when you walk in there a week or 2 later, because you're just so confident, you're like, oh yeah, it's all good. They know what they're doing. And then you walk in 2 weeks later after 2 weeks of the work, and you're like, that tiling job, that grout work, we can't flip this. Like, this is not flip quality, right? And it needs to, because the finishing work is the most important thing when you're selling a property, because that's the stuff that the people are looking at. the little corners, the little edges and stuff. And if they find that, how many times have you heard, well, if they left that, then what else did they leave behind the walls? And it just creates an impression, and it absolutely ruined that flip to the point where we got it quoted to fix all that stuff. And it was a lot. It ended up being like $20,000 that was the quote for someone to come back, tear all that out and redo it. So, I mean, that's just part of, your first couple flips. You got to just assume that, you're going to make mistakes, and it's just part of the learning process. And your first general contractor, your first, set of contractors aren't always going to be the best. They're not always going to work out, but you have to start, and you have to, get guys or girls in there, get them working, test them out, find out if they're crap or not, and then move on to the next one until you find the right one, build that relationship, and then you're good after that. But there's no way around it. That's just part of the process.
No, I mean, and you can talk about that with your contractors, early on, and you can talk in detail. You can say, listen, we all understand that finishing is very important. That's what people see. If it's not finished well, they will, as you say, wonder if they didn't fix this obviously visible thing, or didn't do this obviously visible thing really well, the grouting, the caulking, the baseboards don't fit. What else didn't they do that we can't see? I mean, anybody would say this. So what else is going on? So, when you're hiring contractors, you can say to them, listen, it's the finishing that counts. We need everything to be absolutely precise. The caulking has to be smooth. The grout has to be, you can define what that means.
Mm-hmm.
The standard for trades is, in lots of contracts, is that your tradesperson or contractor will do a quotes, good and workmanlike job, close quotes. And so you want really, a cut above a good and workmanlike job. You want a precise, absolutely beautiful job is what you want. And I'm dead sure that as you say that to any contractor you're hiring for the first time, and you go, okay, I've just explained to you what I need in terms of finishing quality. I need to know you're like that. Absolutely, Wayne. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That, of course, we totally, I'm surprised you're even saying that to me. And then when you see the job, it's half-assed because maybe they're not even doing it deliberately. It's just a different sense of what doing a really better than good and workmanlike job means. And that has to be beautiful and precise with no flaws. Takes a while. Find those guys.
It's probably the number one concern that I'm getting right now from people that I'm coaching that are trying to get into fix and flips. Everyone's getting past the financing. Everybody's getting past the analysis of the properties. But as soon as they're ready to pull the trigger, like they know this is a good deal. They know they got the financing. They got the joint venture capital all ready to go. They got the down payment. But it's like the thing that's scaring people right now that I'm finding is that they're like, well, how do I find a contractor that I can trust? And my answer is exactly what we're just talking about right now. There's no way, because they're always going to say, oh yeah, you betcha. Don't worry about, like, there's no questions that or statements that you can make. There's no standard or reference that you can hand them and say, unless of course, maybe you hand them some pictures or you walk them through another property that's been done by you or someone else and say, this is what I expect. Do you see these corners? That's what I expect. But in most cases, they're almost always going to say yes. Now, if they don't have the craftsmanship or the experience to be able to produce that, they're not going to say no. They're just going to go and they're going to say, well, this is it. And there's no real way to find out until they actually do it. So there's no way around it. That's the problem. So you have to take a leap of faith, and you have to make sure your numbers work. And if you break even because they messed up, it's part of the process. Yeah. Let them go, move on to the next person, and then hopefully.
Well, do you do any diligence on contractors in the sense of saying, okay, listen, I need to talk to your, to the folks that you did your last 3 renovations for? Do you do any of that? Do you ask how long they've been in business? Do you ask how many people they employ? Do you do any poke diligence to see if you can kind of maybe limit the downside of knowing nothing about a contractor?
Yeah, absolutely. You do check references, but they're kind of like tenant references. They'll never give you a bad one. do you even call tenant references anymore? It's not like they're going to give you the bad landlord that they just had, or they're never going to tell you the landlord that that's got something bad to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, references are good. It's definitely part of your diligence, and you can ask to see pictures of previous jobs for sure. But again, would they show you? How do you know that's the? Sometimes. So it is what it is, and references through. So here's the thing about contractors are very complicated. Actually, this is why people struggle with this so much, is because there's no easy answers for it. But if there is a good contractor that people recommend, they're either A, extremely busy with other investors because they do not want to let that person go, or B, they're way too expensive. Right? Anyone who's good should be paid accordingly. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to find an unknown contractor that nobody knows about, that's at an affordable rate, and they do good work.
That's tough.
It's very tough because this is a flipping business. It's hard to pay people $65 an hour. It's hard because that labor cost goes up, and then suddenly your labor portion goes from 25 or 30,000 up to 40,000, and that's $10,000 worth of profit. So it is difficult, and like I said, the only way to really know is to do as much diligence as you can, and then just try them out. And so I'll take one step further if it's okay.
Sure.
One piece of advice that I always offer is that if you have other rental properties, maybe you've got some repairs or stuff that need to be done, just call them in and get them to do, like, hey, do you mind repairing these nosings on the stairs? Hey, do you mind painting this wall? Hey, can you replace all the baseboards? Give them small jobs. Or if it's your first flip, hire 5 contractors and have them, one person does flooring, one person does kitchen cabinets, one person does baseboards, one person does tiles, or whichever else, all the stuff that most GC handymen do, the woodworking, not the woodwork, but the millwork kind of stuff, and just see who's the best. And then as you're working with them, see if they show up when they say they're going to show up. See if they bill you, appropriately. See how you communicate with them. And then the ones that you like, just give them another job. Okay, cool. Thanks. You did a great job on that. Would you like to do the baseboards on this other property that I have? Give them another one. And then just slowly ease them in and just see where their quality is at. And then eventually get to a point where, like, hey, I really like your work. I'd love for you to do all of my projects or my next project. Would you be interested in doing the full thing? So that's how we did it early on. And we just tried people out for small jobs.
And then after a while, you build up your contractor team, and folks, contractors come and go. So just because you've got somebody who's good doesn't mean that your job is over. They'll find other bigger jobs, and sorry, they can't help you anymore. Or if he's a contractor who has subs working for him, his subs will come and go, and he's having trouble finding, a decent replacement sub for his flooring guy who was great. And now he's had 3 flooring guys who are just, doing it because you don't need a ticket to do it. And so anybody can do flooring, anybody can do roofing. Something I run into in my law practice a fair bit is when people are buying and selling is difficulties or issues coming out of the permitting side of renovations. So, I mean, if a renovation involves anything to do with changing electrical or plumbing or heating, ventilating, air conditioning, those things need trade sub permits on a building permit.
Right.
Overall, you need a development permit and a building permit, or that combination permit that you can get. You need the sub permits. You need various inspections done along the way, and then you need a final inspection, a final approved inspection that results in a sticker on the electrical box, or you can get a permit services report that said, we've done a final inspection, and I really like this.
Yeah.
I like the wording. The project meets the standards of the Safety Codes Act.
Is that what it says?
Something to that effect. Or the intentions of it's kind of a wishy-washy final approval. It's a final approval, and that's all they'll give you. But they don't go into any great detail about how they've analyzed all the sub permits and what the inspector said and this, that. But if you're looking to know whether the city has had a final look at it, you can get those final reports. So those, I mean, it's important that whoever is doing your work is getting those permits, getting the inspections done, and getting inspectors to sign off. It's important for you as a person doing a fix and flip. It's also important for your owner who buys. It's important for you when you sell. The contract, the standard purchase contract says that as a seller, you're saying that you've obtained all the permits that you need for any work that needed permits. Yes. So do you do anything on the permit side yourself, or do you leave that to your contractors? How do you handle that very important part of a fix and flip?
I leave it to my contractors. As I mentioned earlier, I don't like getting involved. I want this to be as passive as possible. But, in the past, we were responsible for, when we were building secondary suites for a few years there, we were involved with getting the drawings done, and we were involved with getting the development permits for the secondary suites. And if you need to, yeah, that's obviously something that's required as the owner. But I mean, personally, I like to get my contractor to deal with it. They'll charge us a few $100 to, prepare it. But yeah, it's one of those things that, they're going to do it better and they're going to do it right. And I don't need to do it to save a couple $100. But if you want to, you can. And then the sub trades, they pull their own permits for what's required.
Okay. Right. And I think you're right. It's part of streamlining the whole process. That permits are required, and it's the same situation. You chat with your contractor at the beginning. You say, this is what we want. Let's talk about who you are. Let's talk about permits. I want to know that that's part of your process and that you're doing it. And it's fine if you work it into the quote, but I just need to know that you've pulled the permits, had the inspections done, had everything finally approved, so that, you have that chat and then you offload it onto your contractor. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. I mean, you only need to pull permits in a lot of cases if you're developing, right? If you're adding something new.
Yeah.
So for an electrician, I mean, if you're pulling new wire and putting new, outlets, yeah, you're going to pull an electrical permit. You don't need a building permit for that. Now, if you're completing an unfinished basement, that's different. You're going to need a development permit because you're developing the basement.
Yeah.
If you're putting a new bathroom in the basement, they need a development permit. If you're changing the panel out, you're updating the electrical panel, you would need an electrical permit, but not necessarily development. So, I don't think that, I say this all the time, you don't really need to be an expert in all of these different things.
No.
You know what I mean? We're real estate investors, right? And our job is to find good deals and to basically build a good team around us. And my job is not to understand the ins and outs of the permitting, requirements in each of the cities that I invest in, right?
No.
That's why you get the right power team to take care of it for you.
Yeah, the power team for a long-term buy and hold. Everyone knows you need a power team. You need a good accountant. You need a good realtor. You need maybe an appraiser, a good insurance agent, a good lawyer. Mm-hmm. And it's the same concept when you move over to fix and flip. You need other people on your power team that can help, including good contractors. So
absolutely,
all right,
absolutely.
Well, let's see if we have any questions on this before we move on to another section. Unless you have more to. Are we okay on fix and flip? Okay.
Well, there's no questions. I could talk about fix and flip for hours, but it depends on what you want to talk about today.
All right. Well, this is the time of year when all the kids are writing exams. All those grade 12 kids, university kids, they're writing exams, and so I thought we'd do a little quiz today, a little true and false quiz.
Okay.
In the spirit of the season. So this is a quiz called "So You Think You Know Mortgages."
Wait, let me just get this. Oh, I have to. So you go on. I'll finish.
Now I'll work through this, and our mortgage expert Sean Impey is with us today, and I'm sure he will listen and vet what we're saying and keep us on the straight and narrow as we work our way through these questions.
Okay.
All right. So here's question number 1. I bought at the height of the boom, 25% down payment, property in my own name. Turns out I overpaid. My area in transition has not transitioned.
Okay.
Prices have dropped like a rock. I can't rent the property for enough to make my payments. Nobody wants to buy the property from me. Some dude told me I can walk away from the property and the lender can't come after me personally. So that's their question. Can I walk away from the property and the lender can't come after me personally? Bought in his own name. It's a rental. Let's see. No, it's not a rental. He can't rent the property, but it's in his own name. He's going to walk away from the property. The lender's going to sell it for $50K less than what the mortgage is. What can the lender do to this poor sod?
Oh, well, is this a true or false, or are we answering a question?
All right. Well, it's true or false.
I already got my answer. It depends.
Good one, Wayne. Good one. I'd have a spot in my office. You'd be good in my office.
I'll take the corner office with the window.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. All right. Is true or false? Can this owner walk away from the property?
That's not how you ask it. True or false?
What do we got?
I can walk away from this property and the lender can't do a damn thing to me. True or false?
Oh, we got a maybe. We got a false. The sky is falling, false. Oh, Sean Impey has a good question here, which I'll pull up in a second. Sean asks, is it insured or conventional?
Well, he put down 25%, so we're pretty sure it's conventional.
Conventional. Okay.
And Sean, you don't answer these things right away. Let's let other people answer, because Sean knows all these answers.
Oh, goodness gracious. I'm getting a whole lot of falses. And, drumroll?
The answer is that the lender cannot do anything to this owner. They can take away the property, but they cannot sue him for the deficiency. If they sell the property for $50K less than what's on the mortgage, they cannot come after him. Whoa, so it's false.
You learn something new every day. I thought they could.
This is called the Alberta Advantage. So this notion of if you buy a property in your own name, buy it conventionally, no CMHC or other National Housing Act insurance, whether you rent it out or whether you live in it yourself, if the bank forecloses and takes it away and gets less than what's on the mortgage, they can't sue you for what they're still owed, which is called the deficiency. They can just take the house.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's an uninsured mortgage.
That's an uninsured mortgage. Now, in all of the rest of Canada, except in Saskatchewan, has a couple of these little exceptions.
Yeah.
In all of the rest of Canada, in this scenario, the bank can sue you for the deficiency. So this is a little Alberta aberration. Now, Sean says this is commonly called a non-recourse mortgage. It's kind of a U.S. term that's worked its way into the Canadian vernacular.
I was not aware of that.
Donna just
I mean, that's I don't know. I mean, like I almost want to say that's really cool, but at the same time, like you borrowed something, you should pay them back. Just because the market went down, that's not your lender's fault.
You know, I think this was a reaction to how bad it was here in what they call the Great Depression in the late 20s and the early 30s up until the Second World War. I mean, it's one of the reasons that the agreement for sale strategy actually even came into effect is because banks and municipalities owned so many houses because people either couldn't pay their mortgages or couldn't pay their taxes that the government changed the rules to say, well, listen, you might be able to take away the guy's house because he couldn't pay his mortgage or pay his taxes, but we're not going to make it worse for him. That's all you can do. He doesn't have any money anyway, so all you can do is take the house. So that was a particular Alberta reaction to a problem from a long time ago now, but that's how that one goes. Well, that's number one. Let's get on to number two.
There's a question here to follow up. Patrick asked, with 25% down, would the seller not lose a portion of their down payment since the mortgage interest on the title is first priority?
Well, the seller is going to lose their whole. I mean, they're going to lose the house. The bank is going to take away the property on a foreclosure. They're going to take it away. The seller's going to lose every penny they've put into the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, Patrick, they're going to lose they're going to lose all of their down payment.
Do you mind if I do a little imagery
Sure.
with my hands?
Yeah.
So they bought a house at 500,000. They put 25% down. So that means that their mortgage was 375,000. In this scenario, what Barry is saying is that the house is worth they sold it and there was still a $50,000 loss. So that means that they sold it for 375. It'd be less than that though. But they sold it for no, they would have had there's $50,000 loss though. So the mortgage would have to be, and then
it's not that they sell it for a $50,000 loss on what they bought. It's that they sell it for less than the house is worth less than the mortgage.
The house was worth $50,000 less than what the mortgage was. So that means they sold it for $325,000.
Yeah. So that's an extreme example you've made.
Yeah.
An extreme example. These more often, yeah. But the principle is, if you have an uninsured mortgage, so no CMHC or other insurance, if it's in your personal name, doesn't matter whether it's a rental or a personal residence that you live in, if the bank forecloses, takes away the house and sells it, and what they get when they sell is worth less than the mortgage amount, because that's what the bank is looking for, right? They're looking to be paid back on their mortgage. So if it's worth less than the mortgage, too bad, bank. All you do is get the house.
Wow. I don't know, just as a lender, as an investor, that just sounds like terrible. Sounds terrible. But I mean, like someone's like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I don't owe what I owe anymore. But for me, from a lender's perspective, I don't think that's necessarily all that fair. But oh well.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can get a lender hat on you here as we get into another question. All right, let's see what we got. All right. Scenario number 2, instead of a 25% down payment, I actually only put up a 5% down payment. The good news is I've got an offer on the house, even though it's less than what I paid. The catch is my buyer wants to assume my mortgage. I'm worried that the buyer might default, but I've been told my liability ends once the buyer keeps the mortgage payments up for a year. You know what? That should have been a little farther down the line in the questions. Just a second here.
And you would have to
kind of giving a hint. I'm going to change that. Change that around. Instead of a 25% down payment, I actually only put up a 5% down payment. My property is still underwater. I've got an offer to buy the house, but it's kind of less than what I paid. You know what? I just want to go back to the Maritimes, not to dump on you guys from the Maritimes, but I just want to go back to the Maritimes. I'm just going to let the house go. I'm just going to let the house go. My realtor tells me it's probably going to sell for 15% less than what I paid, certainly less than the mortgage. When it sells, it's probably going to be, probably going to sell for 25% less than the mortgage amount. So, you know what? But I just can't keep it up. And I'm a little bit concerned that the bank can come after me because some dude told me that. So in this scenario where this person has put up a 5% NHA CMHC style mortgage and the bank forecloses on him and the bank gets 25 grand less than what they've got for the mortgage, can they pursue this homeowner for the deficiency?
Ooh.
I got to phrase it. They can pursue this homeowner for the deficiency. True or false?
Yes.
And it's kind of a giveaway. If they couldn't in the other one, they got to be able to do it in this one. So this is.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The answer is true. The bank can pursue this homeowner, whether he is usually with a 5% down, it's a personal residence.
Yeah.
And the reason that they can pursue this particular homeowner, if the bank sells the property and gets less than what they get on the mortgage, and yes, there's a $25,000 deficiency, the bank's short $25K. And the reason is that when you do one of these 5% mortgages, it is insured under the National Housing Act. The National Housing Act is federal legislation, and federal legislation always overrides provincial legislation. Federal legislation says that the homeowner is already responsible for all the costs. So in this case, the bank will sell the property, establish what the deficiency is, say it's 25 grand. They will get a judgment against the homeowner for $25,000. And then they will pass that judgment on to CMHC. CMHC will pay the bank the 25 grand, so the bank isn't out any money. And then CMHC is the owner of the judgment against the homeowner for $25K.
And they pursue it.
They don't pursue it. This is an interesting wrinkle. It's all about politics, or lots of things are about politics. So in the end, CMHC ends up with the $25,000 judgment for the way this process works. And they don't do anything with it. They just let it sit on their books, and they just keep renewing the judgment at the courthouse. So it's always in effect. And then down the road, when the homeowner decides they want to buy another home and they apply with a guy like Sean to get a mortgage, and he does various searches, he'll find out that they defaulted on a mortgage, and they're still in default. They still owe CMHC the money. And CMHC at this point will be brought into the picture, and the homeowner will say, well, listen, I can't buy another house because I owe you guys $25K. And they'll go, well, you know what the answer to that is? Pay us back, and then you'll be able to buy another house. So politically speaking, CMHC knows it's not really good politics to get a judgment against somebody for $25,000. They've lost their house, and then you chase them for the $25K. I mean, that's just not good optics for any government. Then governments run CMHC.
Okay, that makes a little more sense then, because I just thought, like, it's an insurance company. CMHC is an insurance company. What are they concerned about? But if it's the liberal government's coming after me, then it's a completely different story.
CMHC is what they call a crown corporation. It's not. It's a creature of government. It's not the government, but it's a creature of government. And whatever political party is in power at the time is in charge of CMHC. So CMHC chases people all around the block and is mean to them. That'll blow back on the party. But that's the difference between the NHA CMHC style mortgage and the conventional mortgage. The conventional is non-recourse. They can't come after you. Yeah. And CMHC NHA is a recourse mortgage where you're always responsible for the whole debt.
And they're collecting insurance premiums on every insured mortgage anyway. So they're acting like an insurance company. So they should have enough in reserves in order to cover a claim here and there.
Well, they do. They do. The insurance that's in place, CMHC insurance, is for the benefit of the lender. It's to make sure that the lender, if they let people have a property for less than 20% down, it's to make sure that the lender never loses money.
Right.
CMHC pays.
Interesting.
All right.
Interesting.
I bought a property through my real estate holding corporation and paid 20% down payment. So that's a conventional, what we would have called a non-recourse mortgage in these other examples. Bought it through my real estate holding corporation. Now things have gone south and I need to bail out. I've heard there might be a problem if I just walk away from the property and the bank doesn't get themselves paid back. Are they going to come after me for this thing called the deficiency? Or they can come after me for the deficiency, true or false? Now, this guy put up 20% and he bought it in his corporation.
True or false, you can come after them personally or come after the corporation? Sorry.
Come after the corporation. We'll get into the subtleties of that in a moment.
Sorry.
They can come after me. They can come after my corporation to collect the deficiency. True or false?
True or false? What is it, guys? I see a false, and then I see a whole lot of people who are too scared to put their answer. this is all new to me too. I mean, this is.
There's a
I
truth.
mean, we got a. Oh, it's a.
No.
The room is. Yeah, we got mixed responses.
Next response.
It's kind of confusing the way it's being read. Just say.
I'm confusing everybody, says Donna, which, of course, I've heard that before. So they can come after me for the deficiency when I bought it in my real estate holding corporation. True or false? The answer is true. They can come after him. You know, in the other examples we gave, you'll recall I said it was bought in his personal name. In this case, he bought it in his real estate holding corporation's name. Mm-hmm. That legislation that protects somebody on the non-recourse mortgage side of things, called the Law of Property Act, mm-hmm. specifically does not protect someone who bought a property in a corporate name. It only protects you if you bought in your personal name. So yes, on a conventional, what should be a non-recourse mortgage, the bank can come after this corporation for the deficiency. And somebody's going to say, yeah, well, that's the only thing that's in the corporation. There's no other assets. So, you know, fine. They can sue my corporation all they want. What do I care? Mm. Right, folks? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Well, so, I think that we're blowing a few minds and we're bulging a few eyes.
You were saying that, right?
My eyes are wide open and bulging. Very interesting scenario. And also, this is a deep dive. Great quiz. Yeah, this is very good information. A lot of people, well, you want to know why no one knows about this? Because nobody reads the fine print.
The interesting part about this, and this is something that kind of puzzles me. So this person who bought in his real estate corporation does not get the Law of Property Act protection. So his corporation is responsible for the deficiency, but he's smart enough to go, you know what? I only have this one property in my corporation, so you can sue my corporation on all you want. There's no other assets there to get at. You have a, as they say, a hollow judgment. Can't collect it. The answer to that, folks, is when you buy something in a corporation and you borrow money in a corporation, what do banks always make you sign personally? A personal guarantee.
Yeah.
A personal guarantee. And so,
nice try, smarty pants.
that's the way they'll get this person. They may not be able to collect anything against the corporation, but they'll have an enforceable personal guarantee. And as long as the person has personal assets, the bank has a shot at recovery. Yeah, that's number 3. Now, any questions coming out of this before we carry on? My eyes are wide open. Deep dive.
Oh, you're good.
Looks like we're okay there. All right.
Isn't there one or two lenders that have it? Oh God, I shouldn't even start talking if I don't know the full details. But isn't there a couple lenders where you sign a personal guarantee with them, and even after you sell that property, they get to keep that personal guarantee for future mortgages that you do with them?
That could be. I mean, some lenders try and set up their personal guarantees so that they capture any debt that you have with that bank anytime for any reason. It's just, which is I mean, it's a reason that you have to look at personal guarantees. As you were saying, Wayne, people don't read the fine print because personal guarantees can be limited or unlimited. There can be exact dollar amounts in. There can be specific wording that ties it to the property and says that, you know, when this mortgage is completed or done or finished for any reason, my guarantee ends. But you're right. If you don't limit those down, an unlimited, like worldwide guarantee can catch you. Lots of banks don't do that because it's hard to make the case that the guarantee signed on this property 5 years ago is now capturing a loan for a new landscaping business.
Yeah,
where you borrowed money. But some of them try. Banks try and do all those things.
I sure don't want to go up against a bank in court, though.
No.
I got those big fancy lawyers, you know.
Yes. All right. I've got a conventional mortgage in my personal name on a non-performing property. I got big troubles. Can't sell the place for even to pay back the mortgage. So I intend to walk away from the property because I know I won't be liable for any deficiency. I also know that this is a good solution to my financial difficulties. True or false?
Sorry. Way to add that last part in there.
So, I mean, I think everybody knows this, but let's just say it. So this person's going to walk away from the property. The bank's going to foreclose on him. They're not going to be able to pursue him on the deficiency because he bought it in his personal name. But he's in his mind, he's walked away from it. They can't get after him. He solved all his financial difficulties, but he hasn't really, has he? What has he done to his credit rating? What has he done to his credit rating? Crash and burn. This is a good place for Sean to pop up and say, as a mortgage broker, if somebody says to him, yeah, the bank foreclosed on me 2 years ago, I lost that property. What does Sean say to them about their ability to get a new mortgage? And, or, how is this reported to the credit bureaus, and how does it affect his credit over what period of time? I'll just wait for Sean to say something about that, because I'm pretty sure he runs into this on a maybe not totally regular basis. You keep an eye on that while I look at my next true and false question.
You betcha.
Okay. I lent money from my RRSP on a second mortgage. Now the borrower is in default and not paying the mortgage. I'm concerned because I'm not sure if the trustee will start a foreclosure action on my behalf and protect my interests. So if my RSP second mortgage where I was the lender is in default, the trustee will take care of me, start the foreclosure action, and collect the money and protect my interests. True or false? Well, we wait to hear from Sean.
True or false?
Second mortgage, RSP, you're the lender, out of your RSP. The trustee will, once you tell them it's in foreclosure, the trustee will start the foreclosure, run it through, collect your money for you. True or false? Wow, another pretty sure eyes wide open and bulging.
You got one person saying false.
Sean says slim or none, and Slim just rode out of town. That's the answer to this question, which is the trustee will not pursue for you. They are a trustee. Isn't their job to run your mortgage for you or foreclose for you or really do anything for you, although they're ratcheting that up for syndicated mortgages. So the answer is false. The trustee will not foreclose for you. You have to take care of that on your own.
Cheryl Lee asked, did you put a caveat on title?
Well, if it's an RRSP, if it's a registered plan loan, those lenders, and that really means Olympia, require a mortgage, Shirley, which is far more powerful than putting a caveat. So did you put a caveat? Their answer is yes, I put a mortgage, which is way better than the caveat.
Right.
Sean's answer was to the foreclosure question.
Yes.
And the foreclosure question was really to want to know, his answer was to the foreclosure question. But I didn't hear from Sean on the credit side of walking away from a property and what that does to a person's credit. What does it do to their ability to get another mortgage? And what does it do to their credit generally? Unless I missed it in the answer.
I think the way that you phrased it was that what happens when someone comes up and they want to get another mortgage. I think he's saying it's like slim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Slim to none. And slim's
you're not getting another mortgage.
You're not getting another mortgage.
And if you are, it's going to be with like an alternative lender, and you're going to be paying some high interest. You're going to be putting some big money down, and still, it still depends.
Yeah.
Case by case.
And credit is really ratched.
Yeah.
Credit is very difficult.
That takes a while too, right? It takes like whatever it is, 7 years to clear off of your, off of your file. But even at that point, it's not like after 7 years, once your bankruptcy or foreclosure or whatever is off of your credit file, it's still like, even at that point, you're going to be really putting a lot of money down and paying a very high interest rate, and you're going to be begging banks and lenders to even consider you.
Yeah, I mean, because that information that you had been foreclosed on will be there. And yeah, I mean, you might have done a good job of repairing your credit and had good credit experience over the last while. But I mean, let's face it, folks, underwriters, once burned, twice shy, they will be much more careful about approving this kind of a mortgage. And yeah, likely it's going to be an alternate lender. Maybe not. A good broker might be able to stick handle his way through that.
Mm-hmm.
Sean says you can always get a mortgage if you put enough money down. You will pay a high rate equity loan from a private lender. So that's an alternative lender.
Yeah.
So you will be able to get a mortgage, but you will pay through the nose for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see if we can get one more in here before. All right. I carefully monitor my RRSP second mortgage, just like you told me. I see that one of those mortgages is in default. I know the borrowers, they're good people. They've missed a couple of payments, but say they can catch up in 3 months. I don't think there's anything to worry about. True or false?
Can you repeat that again?
Sure.
You have to read it at least twice.
I carefully monitor my RRSP second mortgages. So this person has a couple of RSP second mortgages where they've been the lender.
Okay.
I see that one of those loans is in default. I know those borrowers, and they are good people. They've missed a couple of payments, but they tell me they can catch up in 3 months. I don't think there's anything to worry about. True or false? And while you're thinking about that, Sean says foreclosure is death for an A lender. So if you're wanting to borrow from RBC or CIBC or Scotia, those are A lenders. If you've been foreclosed upon, you're not getting a mortgage from them. All right. Sean says false. Facebook user says false, false, false. Well, everybody's hit it on the nose to finish off because it is false. You should be worried. I mean, I think it's a rule. It's almost 100% rule. And when things are going bad, they continue to go bad, and things can get worse. They rarely get better. If there's some reason why they haven't been paying, I mean, maybe it's understandable and absolutely they can catch up. But generally speaking, in credit situations, if people aren't paying and they promise they can catch up in 3 months, boy, I'll tell you, you better have an assignment of money from a deal they're doing or an employer or something, because really, if it's just them being better payers or sorting out why they haven't been managing their payments properly, that's not going to usually get better. And really, I've seen this so many times over the years as a lawyer. People come to me with situations and problems, and they're not taking action right now because they've been given promises and they think it's going to get better, and there's good people they're working with and they don't want to be mean to them. My experience is, folks, it almost always gets worse. It almost never gets better. And if somebody came to me with this situation, what would I say to them? I'd say, you know what? I really hope they do straighten it out, that they can pay you back in 3 months. But what I recommend is that you start your statement of claim for a foreclosure action right now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cost a whole bunch of money to do that. I mean, by the time it gets cranked up and served and ready to go and it's in their hands, you'll probably be at the 3 month mark. And if they actually do pay you back, then you can stop it. If they don't pay you back, you haven't lost another 3 months, and you're starting your foreclosure, in October, which will leave you in control of the property in December. And that's a terrible time to be in control of the property. So my advice is, if you are a lender and your borrower is in default, Do not wait. Take action really quickly, because you can always stop the action. But if you don't, you're just 3 months behind when the almost sure thing happens, which is it never gets better. It only gets worse.
Well, that's a fun one to leave it
That's a
on.
fun one to leave it on.
60 minutes.
Well, we can do this again. I've got there's 12 questions here in my little true and false, and we did 4 of them. So there's lots more to talk about on the mortgage side of things.
You nailed it right at 60 minutes. That was like perfect. You stopped talking and went.
Bing. Well, Wayne, thanks for pitching in on the fix and flip side of it. Folks, I just want to finish with Wayne has worked really hard on making this go. He has a lot of investing experience. He didn't start as an investor doing fix and flips, although he might have done one back when. I mean, this is a major strategy for him right now. Mm-hmm. And he's put a lot of work and effort into it so he can get to the point where he says he's hands off lots of things. You make sure you do your research. I mean, listen to a guy like Wayne. Listen to his radio show. Listen to things he teaches. Listen to his coaching. And do lots of hard work on how fix and flips work. Be prepared to, don't plan to lose money, but be prepared to lose some money in your first 3, because it's part of learning how to do it so you can be successful later on. It's like every strategy, there's lots of effort to be put in to learning how to do it and be successful at it.
Absolutely.
So we'll leave it on those notes. Wayne, it's always fun. I appreciate your help. We'll see you next Monday, and people don't forget about our September 24th AFS event.
Yes.
Here in Edmonton.
I'm going to post that one last time, actually, because I believe they're offering an early bird discount. You are offering an early bird discount until July 1st, which is what, Friday?
Friday.
That's
50% off.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I wouldn't want to miss that.
That's a good discount. Yeah, I know that's
coming from a guy who knows how to find deals.
Yeah.
It's a good deal. And I'll be there. And
Wayne will be there. That should be another great reason to show up. All right, everyone. Thanks for showing up and listening, and we'll talk to you all next week. Good night, everybody.